Hello again everybody, this is Brandon. Welcome back to A to Z RC. This is going to be our first tutorial of a series of videos on how to design, build, and fly a 250 race quad. Now what we have here is all the things that we need to build our 250 racer. We have the carbon fiber frame, the main frame, the arms, and the hardware. Here we have the propellers. We have two different types. Then we go on to the ESCs and the motors here, the flight controller, and last but not least, the power source or the battery. Here's a list of all the parts you're going to need to build your 250 race quad. Now let's go ahead and start talking about what frame to get and how to choose one. Here we have a Diatone frame that's just out of the box, and this is the one we're going to be putting together. Here we have a Riot frame, and this is a Emax frame that you can get off of eBay. A lot of the frames are pretty close to the same. They're all going to be carbon fiber, and they're all going to be about the same size. Now what we mean by a 250 millimeter quad is it's 250 millimeters from this motor shaft here to this motor shaft across here. So as long as you're in that range, you're going to have the right size of 250 racer. Okay, so now we have our frame right out of the box and ready to build. Let's go ahead and start putting it together. I just wanted to show you this real quick. This is the Diatone frame. I really like it because it has the power distribution board built right into the main frame. It has the 12 volt regulated and the 5 volt out regulated. You can plug that right into your camera or your receiver. So let's go ahead and put it together. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to connect the stands onto the frame just like this. So now that we have the main shafts on the frame, let's go ahead and start connecting the arms. Sometimes it's a little harder to get the screws and arms all lined up than you think it is. So let me show you a little Brandon trick on how to do it. What you're going to do is you're going to put all the screws in, and then you're going to grab a little piece of tape, masking tape, duct tape, doesn't matter. Throw it right over the top so it holds it. Get it down, and then you can flip the frame over, put on all of your washers right on the top, and then put the arm on and tighten it down. That's the easiest way to do it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and talk about the motors and ESCs that we're going to be putting on these. So here we have two different motors and two different ESCs. Here we have a smaller DYS 1806 2300 kV motor running a ZTW Spider 12 amp ESC, and this one is an Emax 2204 motor 2300 kV with a Hobby King Afro Series 20 amp ESC. Now, a lot of people get really blown back by all the numbers that are getting thrown at them from the motor, but let's go ahead and go through it. It's really quite simple. So this is an Emax 2204. Now, the 2204 means that there is 22 millimeters in the diameter and 4 millimeters of the height of the can. So this is a 2204 size motor. Now, it also says 2300 kV. Now, the kV is your RPM of the motor divided by the voltage that you're running at. Typically, a low kV means you're going to have high torque out of your motor, and a high kV typically means you're going to have more RPM. Okay, now that we have our arms attached to the frame and the frame ready to go, let's talk about placing our ESC and our motor onto the frame before we get to soldering. So our motor will obviously go in the motor hole at the end of the arm, and our ESC is kind of what's challenging. A lot of people will put the ESC on the arm to help with cooling. A lot of people will put it in between the frame if there's room. In this frame there's not. A lot of people will put it on the frame itself, on the inside. There's a lot of different opinions. We are going to put the ESC on the arm. So what you do is you just put the ESC right here, put the motor approximately where it's going to go, and then find out where you need to go ahead and cut your wires and snip away. Let's go ahead and do it. Now that we have cut our ESC and motor wires to the appropriate length, what we're going to do is we are going to take the covering off of the wire, and we're talking just maybe 1/4 of an inch, just really small, and then we're going to put a little bit of solder on the tip of that wire so it adheres better when we solder it together with the motor. We're also going to do the same exact thing with the motor side. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we are going to put the motor and ESC together. Now when you do this, don't forget to put the heat shrink on, because I do it every time. I solder these two together and then I have to put the heat shrink on. So let's go ahead and cut the heat shrink right now. Okay, now that we have the heat shrink on, the motor and ESC soldered together, let's use our lighter. Go ahead and shrink the heat shrink, and you're ready to go. Let's do it 3 more times. When we have our quad all set up, we are going to have 4 motors. 2 of them are going to be turning clockwise, and the other 2 are going to be turning counterclockwise. Now, to reverse the motor, all you're going to do is you're going to take 2 of the 3 wires on the motor and swap them on the ESC. So for an example, if we have one that's all lined up like this, all we are going to do is we are going to take 2 of these wires here, swap them, and solder them just like this, and that will reverse the motor. So let's go ahead and do that on 2 of them. Now that we have all 4 of our motors and ESCs soldered together, let's go ahead and put them on the frame. So usually what I do first is put the motor onto the frame and then solder the ESC onto the power distribution board. You can do it the other way, that's fine too. We just want to make sure that the motors that are turning counterclockwise, so are going to go on the right front and the bottom left. So your motors are actually going to be turning in the front towards the nose, and in the back they're going to be turning away this way. So again, your motor that's turning clockwise is going to be the one in the front left and the one in the right rear. So let's go ahead and put the ESCs and motors onto our frame. Okay, now that we have our motors and ESC attached to our frame, it looks like our quad is really starting to come together. On our next video, we will be talking a little bit more about the flight control board. So thanks for joining us on A to Z RC. Don't forget to download our app, and we will see you there.